Fish, birds, and animals. The question has been asked many times, where do animals come from? Well, animals come from the same place you do. Creator core cells all over the universe were constantly creating new forms. Once they found that the little humans could be animated, they began to create all different kinds of forms. As the creator core cells began to expand their creations, the fish, birds, and animals began to take their forms. Different creator core cells delighted in their animated holograms. Some formed fish, others birds, others animals, all with different energy configurations. These new creature forms gave the humans something different to interact with. This greatly expanded and enriched their little plays. You see, when a creator core self created containments to experience, they couldn't be just human bodies. There had to be more. A creator creates. A creator core self is not satisfied with just one thing created. There are creators all over the place. And there continues to be creators all over the place making different types of containments for experience of all kinds. There were ever so many creating plants, animals, fish, and birds. Now, you just don't create something and say, well, here it is, that's the end of that. You continually create and refine, change color, change size, all these different things. You have all of these creators not only creating human bodies, but creating all these others. That's the experience. The experience is the richness of different things. That is why we don't understand why many of the humans on your planet have become so satisfied with having things the same way and doing the same things in the same way. And those who don't want change and are being pushed into change and not liking the change. That isn't what creation is all about. Creation is a continuing process. So you have original creations. That was where the creators were working with a specific shape or form. We'll take animals. But this works both ways, down to the rocks and up to the other end, which is the fish and so forth. We'll take an animal. We'll take a cat. The cat, as it originally came out, was a very huge, huge animal. When they got that cat, they said, well, let's see if we can make something different. Okay, let's say the first cat turned out to be white. Let's make another one and we'll make it black. Let's make another one and we'll make it black and white. What happened is, the white one at that point began to experience itself and began to create its own self. The same thing with the black one and the same thing with the black and white one. We've explained how you came to be you. It's the same process exactly. They are also working with consciousness. That holds the cat together so they can continue with their creative evolution. So you get from the great big cat to littler and littler and littler and littler until you've got the one that's running around on the floor and getting in the way of rocking chairs and everything else. The little house cat. Cats do not have what you have as a dead zone. They have their own way of their evolutionary process, shall we say. What they do is, say the mother cat has a litter of 4 or 5 little babies, and these little babies grow up and go their own way. Then what happens? The mother is the one that usually dies first. She keeps her own identity and forms around herself her own awareness. When the next in that litter dies, it goes to where the mother's awareness is, being automatically drawn to it. Just as you in the dead zone are drawn to your parents, if that is your desire. The next little baby has grown up and dies and also goes there. The next little baby, when it dies, their awareness goes there. They all have their own individual personalities, and that forms what you call an awareness gestalt. At such time that those little animals are together, and maybe even some of the offspring of those other little babies, they join the gestalt. Some of them become cohesive in their experiences, and some of them do not. Some of them do not go to that particular gestalt. When a gestalt is formed and it reaches another potential, all of those experiences are gathered in that gestalt to make a cohesive gestalt of one. At that point, one becomes the mother for that gestalt and takes another physical existence, again with the expanded awareness and experiences of the total gestalt. From that point, other babies are born. Those that are in that gestalt can also be born, or rather reshuffle their holograms and particles and pick up the expanded awareness and experience from that point. That cycle is a continuing cycle. Like you, going from live zone to dead zone to live zone, back and forth and back and forth. All animals, fish, birds, etc., do the same thing. They stay in that which you call their cohesiveness. Instead of a dead zone, they have viable gestalts that they coagulate and make into new expressions, which in turn results in expanded awareness. So, their creative process is via a gestalt. What you would call a family gestalt. This is typical for all groups. That is how the animals evolve in their experiential patterning and continue to develop. That is why, sometimes you'll say, that animal almost appears to be human. That is from the evolution of the gestalt, the original cat or dog gestalt family, who have an accumulated exposure to humans. Some animals prefer exposure to humans. And other animals, out of the same litter, would prefer exposure to others of its kind, like a street cat, for example. The street cat, when it dies, will join a gestalt that is compatible with their experiential patterning and not go back to the mother gestalt. So that's how the gestalts keep changing, and that is what they work from in their evolutionary patterning. Let us take one little cat and call it Pokey. As an example, if this Katniss gestalt desires to express itself through physicality, it creates itself as a mother cat. It reappears in physicality. It creates itself in the new physicality and with the total awareness and expanded awareness experience of that gestalt. That which is Pokey can create itself from this new mother with all the expanded awareness of the mother. Pokey still maintains its identity, just like you maintain your identity. You can go into the dead zone and gain from that experience. When you come back into your next physicality and put yourself into the next live zone experience, you can come in with expanded awareness. So you see, creation is always there. You'll say, we have an endangered species and there is only so many of them left. Maybe they've just been discovered and there are only a few of them. Have you ever stopped to think that that is a new creation? The spotted owl. Everybody got all excited when they saw a spotted owl the first time. They tried to find out how many there were and they found out there were very few. That is new. That is the beginning. You don't realize that there are always those new creations. How come no more dinosaurs? Well, we've experienced that, so let's change them this way and let's change them that way. Then those became what you call extinct. How did they become extinct? Well, they're nothing but vibratory energy patterns to begin with, so why can't they become extinct in your reality? Then you'll say, well, poor dinosaurs. No. Remember, these animals are creators just like you. It's their species and their intent and purpose. You have such a limited scope on what you are able to know at the present time. You don't know about all the things that became extinct way back when. You don't know thousands of years back. You don't know eons. You don't know eons and eons and eons. You know, this didn't all happen only 1,000 years ago or even 10,000 years ago. And not only in your reality but in multiple realities. Beyond any number. No. This was long, long, long before that. So you creators continue to create. Animals and humans move from reality to reality. The key difference between human and animal and fish or bird, between animal and plant or plant and rock, is the richness of their spectrum of beliefs available to them. As we've said before, the humans have this richness of their experience that They have continually drawn on. Animals have a different construct. The animals have a very limited belief system, a very limited emotional system, and they work from those points. They learn how, from the very beginning, to recreate themselves and all of this. That is part of their makeup. The thing is, they have a different understanding than you have. They're not concerned with life and death as you are. You as humans have the life and death cycle, which was put into motion by the dreamers you as a result of viewing the patterning of mass consciousness. That meant that everything else had to follow suit in its own way. You have certain parameters that you have set into motion over long periods of time. You have good and bad. You have light and dark. You have life and you have death. You don't even consider those as being options. At one time they were options. Every single one of them were options. You were only working with very rudimentary life forms. So what would you need night and day and good and bad and life and death for? There was no need. All you were doing was trying to manipulate this little containment called you, so that was that. There was no time. And yet there was all time. If you look back, you'll find in your books where you started calendars and where you started clocks. If you have that in books that you can read in the present day, you can see how recent that was compared to eons of time. We're trying to give you an explanation of how this physicality all came about and how the knowingness of these animals, fish, birds, plants, rocks, etc., all came about. Their particular knowingness is something that they've had from the beginning. It is not something newly discovered. The difference is the evolution of the species of man in comparison to the evolution of the species of the others that inhabit your planetary existence. You experience here in the life zone, you get into the dead done, and you experience there. That's all it is. Just because animals die, they have the innate knowingness that they're dead. In fact, that's the thing with animals. When they know they're going to die, they just leave the body. They don't care to be involved in that suffering. The human hangs onto the body. You see, the animals have a more innate knowingness because they work from a gestalt and they are very satisfied. They will learn from that vantage point, but they like the ability to be able to, shall we say, sleep. They sleep and they go out of body. They don't stay in those animal bodies. They also explore from that vantage point. But the minute you want them, boy, they're right there. They're not sleeping. The body is sleeping. Why stay around in the body when there is nothing interesting? See what I'm referring to? What I'm saying is, the animals are completely content the way they are. They have that innate knowingness within them. Animals create. You have that which you call the little beavers that take their teeth and they cut down trees and they build dams. That's what beavers do. That is creativity. They're creating. They create dams and homes for themselves. Animals have different ways of creating. Birds create nests of different kinds. Foxes and bears build dens. We started out with cats and we can go to the house cat. Why do animals get sick? Animals, little kittens, are brought into housing situations where there is no other cat around. What the cat does, because it doesn't have another cat to mimic. It has its catness, but it mimics a human. Animals mimic humans. When an animal gets sick, you take it to the animal doctor. An animal in the wild finds its own medicine. That's why you can take a chimpanzee and put it with a human for years. Then the chimpanzee will mimic. And you seem to think that you came from chimpanzees. Boy, that's a stretch. An animal was originally birthed in its animal form, whatever animal it happens to be. The birds, the fish, that was the same thing. They were birthed as what they were to be. The variations of that which you call a bird form comes from those that are working with the particles, the atoms, the holograms, putting them together, making new birds. This particular bird will be an eagle. The next one will be a canary. The same with plants. The same with everything. It's what was originally created. It is given as a form to be put on the planet to experience its own evolutionary process, just as you are. There is no great and general plan, it's just an experience, an evolutionary process. A creator only wants to create for the experience. That's where you, as humans on your planet, have lost your ability of spontaneous creativity. It is those that work in situations where they can work from the standpoint of spontaneous creativity that find the most joy in their lives, regardless of what field of endeavor it is in. Whatever you want to be involved in. It's the creative process that brings the greatest happiness. The creative process is stifled in some individuals because all they do is follow, instead of being bold and creative. The one that just follows is the one that gets depressed and discouraged and all of these other things, because all they are doing is following. They are not being dynamic creators. You were created with joy and happiness. That was the creative process, and it still is with anybody that is creating on any level of that which you call creator physicality. It doesn't stop. That is why you are in a constant state of discovering something new on your planet. Oh, we didn't know that was there before. Well, maybe it wasn't. How do you know but what a creator hadn't just put that there the day before yesterday? You see how your physical brains work and how we're trying to get you to realize that. Yes, this is the way your physical brain works. Don't lock yourselves into that which has to be because. Nothing has to be because. You have provided yourself with a containment, called a body, for experience and for creativity in whatever way you want to do it. This is entirely up to you, and it has nothing to do with anyone else living on the planet. It is your own individual, psychological, construct that you are experiencing and no one else's. So find the richness. Remember, everything on this planet has been created in a containment called bodies for experience at whatever level. Somebody would say, who created sand? I'll tell you who created sand and how it was created. In the beginning we began to put particles together and found that they would stick, and we would put a couple of particles together. Oh, those stick together. Oh, that was fun. Oh, this was fun. Make some more. We had all these particles. Somebody made this planet, so let's put a hunk of it here. We got rid of that and then began to play with something else. You see, creativity is fun. It's an ever-evolving process. That's why you can say, many years ago this was a sea or a lake and now it's nothing but sand. Now we have a lake over here that was never there before. How come? It's all movement. You see it is solid. That has come from the eons of evolution and changing belief patterns. You have the genes and the mind that has all of this in your individual memory patterning. You can't not think of yourself as not being solid and not experiencing. That's where, at one point in time, you didn't have the vivid colors that you have now. Your colors are brilliant. It's simply because that is what you had decided. Someone made a change here with some element and they say, we put this paint together and we put that paint together and look what we came up with. That's fine, because that's the way that different areas have evolved in color, which you never had before. If you could see yourself as we see you, you still would see just squiggly lines. That isn't the way you have evolved, as just squiggly lines, and that is why you have the richness of your evolution and you don't even want to pay any attention to it. People watch television. They see the nature shows with animals in the wild. They see the animals hunt and kill for their food. They find these animals in a natural world, cruel and brutal. They turn to another channel and they see people shot, stabbed, run over by cars, blown apart, drowned, torched, burned and stomped on. Animals in the wild hunt and kill to survive. They need food and they only take what they need. People will, I'll let you draw your own conclusions.